Hello everyone and welcome to another casual review. Today we are talking about the wonderful 101 Remastered. I feel like the creation of this remastered version got a little bit of heat. It kind of rubbed people the wrong way. The creators of the wonderful 101 is a company called Platinum Games, and they dropped the idea of this remaster on a website called Kickstarter, a website that is normally used for indie developers to get their games up and running. They ask for funds from fans to help get their game kickstarted. And so the wonderful 101 team used this platform in order to, I think, kind of garner interest in a wonderful 101 remastered edition. And it just kind of rubbed people the wrong way because they were a big company that obviously didn't need financial help, but they used the platform anyway. Well, one way or another, this remastered version happened, and it gave a lot of people the chance to play this game because it was previously a Wii U exclusive. Myself being one of those people experiencing this for the first time. So, how do I describe this game? It is just so out there. It is so bonkers is the only word I can think of. I guess I'll just start with the plot. In simple terms, it's Earth in the future, and aliens are starting to invade it, called Gethjerk. They are these robotic kind of life forms that are giant. They speak English at you, though. They can taunt you, and they are just wrecking up the planet. And so to defend our planet, the Earth devised a group called the Wonderful 100. And this is a group of superheroes, essentially, that use these amulets to put on these super armored suits. And these suits can chain together to form giant objects. Think kind of like Big Hero 6. You know those tiny little magnets that could form together to form giant objects, and you could control them using a remote control? It's kind of like this. So each superhero of the wonderful 100 can create a weapon of their choice. So there's a bunch of different colors of these superheroes. Our main hero, the leader of the organization, is known as Wonder Red. So he can enlist his teammates of the wonderful 100 to form giant fists. And then you have Wonder Blue, and he can form a giant sword. Wonder Pink, and she makes this like spiky whip. It sounds pretty crazy, but it only gets crazier from here. Going into this, I was a little worried that the story and the narrative would be pretty simplistic, straightforward. Aliens coming to Earth and we got to fight them off. But it actually goes in some pretty interesting directions and takes some pretty interesting themes. You meet some new characters. You have actual character development. However, I feel like some of the characters that were introduced later in the game didn't get to be fleshed out that much because they didn't get as much screen time. Most of the character development will happen between Wonder Red and Wonder Blue, the first two superheroes that you encounter. This game is very comedic, which I think fits the tone pretty well. However, the actual comedy didn't really do it for me. It was like Saturday morning comedy, like very wacky, very like, oh, I'm pumping up to do something awesome. Oh no, it failed. Whoops, that kind of thing. It didn't really do it for me, but I felt like what they were going for here, they really hit the nail on the head. So, I think the controls are one of the biggest deterrents of this game for most people. It has a high entry point, a lot to learn. As you know, this game originally came out on the Wii U, and so it utilized the touchscreen in order to activate the weapon. So, if I wanted to use Wonder Red and make a giant fist, I have to draw a circle on the Wii U touchpad. Or if I want to use Wonder Blue with his sword, I have to draw a line. Now, how do you do this if you are only playing with a controller? Because this game came out on the Switch, PlayStation, that kind of stuff. You can use the touchscreen with the Switch if you're playing handheld, but I found that to be pretty tedious to take my right hand off of the controls in order to use the touchscreen. I found it a lot easier just to use the right stick. It takes some getting used to, but eventually you can draw the shape that you are intending to use. Just like how this game utilized the Wii U touchpad for touch controls, it also used the menuing on the touchscreen to give you additional information. In order to circumvent that, they just have this like translucent menu on your screen the whole time to represent what would be showing on the Wii U gamepad. You can turn this on or off, move it around, expand it, shrink it, but it always felt like it was just in the way. And most of the time I didn't need the information that was on the submenu, so I just turned it off. However, sometimes when you're inside a building interacting with gears and stuff on that submenu, it would show what you're interacting with from the outside view. So sometimes that would be on. I'm not really sure how you would get around this problem, so I think they did the best they could. However, it never felt right on a single screen. From there on, it is kind of typical action-y combat. You have your basic attack, you have a block, and then if you use the block at the right time, then you counterattack, and then you also have a dodge. And there's a couple other things as well. You can like launch your team at enemies, and then they will attack the guys, kind of like Pikmin will. They kind of group around the giant death jerk, and all of them start individually attacking it. This only does a little bit of a damage, however. There's a lot more to the combat, but for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to drop it off there just to get your foot in the door. It certainly takes a lot of getting used to. It can be a little weird controlling 100 people at the same time, but really you are just controlling the one wonder person, and the other 99 people just follow your orders. They just do exactly what you do. You don't have to worry about them getting hurt or anything like that. Well, I guess you do, but it doesn't take any health. They are just like more incapacitated, and then if you run over them, then you recover them again. This game really doesn't like you getting hit by objects, however. In a lot of other games, if you get hit by an enemy, you will continue your attack, continue your combo. In this one, it just halts all combat. You fall to the floor, and it takes a couple seconds to get up, and then you have to gather up all your teammates. So you really have to master the blocking and dodging system. For certain attacks, you are not able to block them or counter them, and I felt like this game did a really poor job in letting you know what was able to be blocked and what wasn't. In most cases, I found it easier just to use my dodge. There is an upgrade system in this game. You gather currency depending on how well you perform on the missions, and then you can use that currency to upgrade your abilities, buy items, that kind of thing. So I really went into my dodge ability, just making that do a lot of extra damage. One makes it so it does damage as you pass through an object. One makes it so you leave like this little landmine as you pass. And so using your party gauge, you can really utilize that dodge ability to do damage while you're dodging enemy attacks. However, if you do perform poorly in this game, then you won't be making a lot of that money, a lot of those resources in order to buy upgrades. And so I feel like the difficulty gap just got greater and greater as I was playing along in normal difficulty, and I wasn't able to keep up with the ramping difficulty of the actual game. So I made the decision pretty early on to drop it down to easy difficulty. There is a very easy difficulty, but I felt like I was just going to drop down to easy, and just to kind of get my bearings, to get caught up in resources. And I felt like that really helped me enjoy this game more. Granted, once I finally did master the combat, well, I wouldn't say master, but once I got a hang of it, I felt like I probably could have upped the difficulty back up to normal. In normal mode, I feel like the enemies just have a very, very large health pool, and I felt like it increased the time that you were down whenever you got hit by an enemy. So I think I enjoyed the game a lot more in easy mode, and if you are going into this fresh and you are having a difficult time grasping the system and just getting frustrated, I do recommend dropping down the difficulty 1 or 2 levels. They do a lot of things to mix up the gameplay. It's certainly the type of game that you have to just constantly be paying attention to. A lot of action happening on the screen. A lot of the times it demands you to mash on the button. There's a lot of quick time events during this as well. So when you're, let's say Wonder Red is going up to punch a guy, he'll scream like Wonder Punch, and you have to hurry and draw a circle. Or let's say there's a bunch of platforms that you have to jump to. He'll say like Wonder Jump, and you have to press the jump button really quick. So even during the cutscenes, you have to be paying attention because it will require some input. That's just the whole tone of this game though. Tons of action, way over the top. It very much reminds me of a Saturday morning cartoon where like your characters will say the move before they do the actual move itself. Visually just so exciting. Lots of particle effects happening everywhere, lots of explosions. Your whole screen is just going crazy. This version would drop down in frames per second a couple of times. Nothing too noticeable though, nothing too game disrupting. But there is a lot happening on the screen at once, so I'm not surprised that the Switch performed this way. While you're traversing around the levels, there are it's fairly linear of a pathway, but there are a couple secrets off the beaten path, and I felt like these secrets were pretty tough to find. I highly doubt anyone could find them all without following a guide. You have to do some pretty weird things, and sometimes you're not sure which character you need to use in order to interact with which environment. So I definitely feel like I missed a lot. But if you do explore, there are a couple of collectibles. There's like platinum coins. You can unlock permanent characters to help join your roster. There's really only like 6 or 7 main characters, like the Wonder Color characters, and then you can get characters that are basically like copies of the Wonder Red, the Wonder Blue. They are like their own superhero. They have their own design, and they are permanently on your team, but they basically utilize the same weapon. So really you can only play as like 6 different playable characters. It was fun seeing the designs of all these unique heroes though. They were really fun. I felt like they came up with a lot of unique different superhero ideas that are just pretty out there. There's like a toilet one. There's one where his head is like a motorcycle. The designs are just bonkers. I'm gonna use that word again. But even if you can't find all of the permanent members for your team, you can recruit regular civilians by drawing a circle around them, and they will join your team just for that level. So it isn't unusual to have a full team of 100. Now, I mentioned that I did drop this game down in difficulty to easy. Part of the reason why I also did that is I was getting a lot of continues. They are pretty generous with their continues, however. If you run out of health, you have to re-enter the game using a continue. The checkpoints are very, very generous though. I feel like it just starts you right off the bat where you were, even in the middle of a boss fight, like the final boss fight. It just starts you back up where the health of the boss was at previously. The only penalty to really using a continue is you don't get those rewards, you don't get those resources. So it is still a bummer when you do get a continue because you miss out on all that extra currency. The environment itself looks all right, although the design of the characters leaves something to be desired. They are kind of, you know, that big head, small body type of design, and when they're talking, it's just like 3 different images of their mouths. Kind of like how South Park, how those characters talk. It's basically just like the still image of the character as he's talking. He'll appear out of the bottom. And it is all voice acted, which is nice. I'm curious how this game looked in the Wii U. I think I might look up a couple of images afterwards, because this is the remastered version, and you can tell that they put some work into it, but just for curiosity's sake, I'm wondering if this game looked really bad on the Wii U. I was worried that it would be a city environment the whole time. Like, that is very superhero. We're just fighting in a dense populated city, but it does take you all over the world. So sometimes you'll be fighting in a lava volcano continent, or sometimes you'll be in Antarctica and it's all snowy and icy. So they do a lot of things to mix it up. Sometimes you even pilot vehicles in between levels, and they will tell you like the controls of the ship, and it'll be like an on-rail shooter, kind of like Star Fox, or sometimes they'll have you boxing in a giant robot against the Death Jerk, kind of like a Punch-Out even. Lots of different ways to mix it up, lots of different combat, which is appreciated, because I felt like just doing the normal combat in Wonderful 101 started to get a little tedious and samey. Just like a Saturday morning cartoon, I felt like the operations themselves became a little formulaic at times, especially during the first half of the game. It seemed like you go to a new area, you uncover a new character, a new Wonder Color, and then you fight the boss, and then it rinse and repeat. So it did get a little formulaic. Sometimes it's like, okay, you're gonna go into this area, fight these Death Jerk, now next travel over to this area and fight these Death Jerk, and then on and on and on. So it was nice when they would mix it up by having you pilot different vehicles. The music itself is really fun. It is like this heroic, orchestrated music. It pumps you up when you're fighting a big boss and you're using all these quick time events to beat him up. I wasn't too crazy about the fixed camera either. I felt like it would zoom out on its own when you are fighting, and you kind of need that when you have 100 people on the screen that you're trying to control. But when you are just doing the platforming parts, trying to get to the next area, the camera is zoomed in way too far, and it made exploring the area and finding secrets pretty difficult because I couldn't adjust how far away the camera was. It's the type of game that just always felt like a commitment. Each level just felt like it took a really, really long time, and pausing in the middle of it never felt right. It's really the type of game that I wasn't excited ever to start up and play, but when I was in the thick of it, I was having the time of my life. I was totally sucked in. I was all about it. Very exciting. It just demands your full attention, so it always felt like a big commitment. I certainly feel like this game will deter a lot of people. If you go into it blind, not really knowing to expect, you could be turned off pretty quickly. But I actually do highly recommend you just putting it on easy difficulty and giving it a try and really trying to master the gameplay system. Using the right stick to draw patterns isn't really that difficult once you get the hang of it. I've never really flip-flopped so hard in a game before. It was like over and over again. Sometimes I would be hating this game. Other times I would be absolutely loving it, and it would just go back and forth. It was really funny. I think at the end of the day, this is a really unique game. They really did something fun and crazy and different, and that should always be rewarded. At the end of the day, I just think that it is a really great game. I will give this game the score of 4 out of 5. Give it a shot. Go in with an open mind, and you will be presented with a very exciting and unique experience. That's it for me, though. Let me know if you have any questions or comments about the wonderful 101, and I'd be happy to hear what you have to say. I'll talk to you later. Bye!